Hidden islands, secret military zones, ancient temples, and radioactive landscapes remain locked away, not because we lack the technology, but because someone refuses to let the truth be uncovered. Here are 10 places on Earth where scientists are banned, restricted, or heavily prevented from studying what lies inside. Number 10. Diego Garcia, Indian Ocean. Most people have never even heard of Diego Garcia, yet it's one of the most strategically important islands on Earth. Located deep in the Indian Ocean, the island serves as a major military base jointly operated by the United States and the United Kingdom. Because of its military importance, access is extremely limited. Even researchers with legitimate scientific goals often cannot freely study the island's environment. This is frustrating because Diego Garcia is surrounded by beautiful coral reefs, unique marine ecosystems, and rare wildlife. Scientists would love to understand how decades of military activity have affected the local environment, but independent studies are incredibly difficult to carry out. The island also has a controversial history. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, the native Chagosian people were removed so the military base could be expanded. Since then, many questions have remained unanswered, not only about the environmental impact, but also about the long-term effects on the displaced population. To this day, much of what happens on Diego Garcia remains hidden behind military security. Number 9. North Brother Island, New York. Just a short distance from New York City's busy skyline sits an abandoned island that almost nobody is allowed to visit. North Brother Island was once home to a quarantine hospital where patients with dangerous infectious diseases were isolated from the rest of the city. Perhaps its most famous resident was Typhoid Mary, who spent years in forced isolation after being linked to multiple disease outbreaks. Today, the island is completely closed to the public and functions mainly as a protected bird sanctuary. The abandoned hospital buildings are still standing, slowly falling apart after decades of neglect. Inside are old medical facilities, tunnels, equipment, and forgotten structures that have barely been examined. Scientists have long been interested in studying the island's history, its old medical waste, possible environmental contamination, and the remains of one of America's earliest quarantine systems. But because access is tightly restricted, many of those questions remain unanswered. Number 8. Nanda Devi, India. High in the Himalayas lies one of India's most mysterious mountains. Nanda Devi isn't just famous because of its incredible beauty. It also became the center of one of the strangest Cold War operations ever attempted. During the 1960s, intelligence agencies reportedly tried to place a nuclear-powered monitoring device high on the mountain to observe Chinese nuclear activity across the border. Before the mission could be completed, severe weather forced the team to leave the equipment behind. When they returned months later, the device had disappeared, most likely carried away by an avalanche. The problem is that the missing device reportedly contained radioactive material. Because the mountain later became a highly protected environmental zone, access has remained heavily restricted for decades. Scientists have never been able to perform a full investigation to determine whether the lost equipment still exists beneath the glaciers, or whether any radioactive material entered nearby rivers. The mystery remains buried somewhere beneath thousands of feet of snow and ice. Number 7. The Korean Demilitarized Zone. The border between North and South Korea is one of the most heavily guarded places on Earth. Stretching roughly 250 kilometers across the Korean peninsula, the demilitarized zone has remained largely untouched by humans since the Korean War ended in 1953. Ironically, decades without human development have turned the area into one of Asia's most important wildlife refuges. Rare cranes, black bears, deer, and countless endangered species now live inside this accidental nature reserve. Scientists would love to conduct large-scale ecological studies here because the area offers a rare glimpse into what nature can become when humans leave it alone. But military restrictions make that nearly impossible. Research on the South Korean side requires special permission, while the North Korean side is almost completely inaccessible to foreign scientists. As a result, one of the world's most unique ecosystems remains only partially understood. Number 6. ISE Grand Shrine, Japan. Japan is home to one of the country's most sacred religious sites, the ISE Grand Shrine. For over 1,300 years, this shrine has been rebuilt every 20 years using the same traditional methods. Yet despite centuries of rebuilding, One thing has never changed: scientists and archaeologists are not allowed to excavate beneath it. The shrine is deeply connected to Japan's imperial family and is considered the holiest place in the Shinto religion. Access to its inner areas is limited to members of the imperial family and selected priests. Even experienced researchers cannot enter simply to conduct historical studies. Number 5. Mayak Nuclear Facility, Russia. Long before the world heard about Chernobyl, another nuclear disaster had already taken place inside the Soviet Union. In 1957, an explosion at the Mayak nuclear facility released massive amounts of radioactive material into the surrounding region. It became one of the worst nuclear accidents in history, but the Soviet government kept it secret for decades. Entire villages were exposed without knowing the danger, and some residents remained in contaminated areas for years before evacuations finally happened. Today, Mayak is still an active nuclear site, and many experts believe much remains unknown about its long-term environmental damage. Number 4. Madol, Micronesia. Hidden on a remote Pacific island sits one of the strangest ancient cities ever built. Madol is made up of nearly 100 artificial islands connected by canals. Huge basalt stone blocks, some weighing dozens of tons, were stacked to build walls, temples, and royal compounds. The biggest mystery is how these massive stones were moved. There are no written records explaining the construction, and historians still cannot fully explain the engineering behind the city. Rising sea levels and erosion continue damaging the ruins, while scientists fear important clues could disappear before they are properly studied. Number 3. Varosha, Cyprus. Imagine an entire city suddenly frozen in time. That is exactly what happened to Varosha. Before 1974, it was one of the Mediterranean's most popular tourist destinations, filled with luxury hotels, restaurants, beaches, and thousands of residents. Then conflict broke out on the island of Cyprus. The city's population fled, expecting to return within days, but the area was sealed off behind fences and military guards for decades. Buildings slowly crumbled while nature reclaimed the streets, and even today, most of Varosha remains heavily restricted, leaving many research opportunities untouched. Number 2. Mailuu-Suu, Kyrgyzstan. At first glance, Mailuu-Suu looks like an ordinary mountain town, but hidden beneath the landscape is one of Central Asia's biggest environmental concerns. During the Soviet era, the region became a major uranium mining center, and when the mines closed, enormous amounts of radioactive waste were left behind. Today, unstable waste dumps sit above rivers that supply water to millions of people downstream. Scientists continue calling for more environmental studies to measure radiation, examine water quality, and understand long-term health effects, but many questions about the true scale of contamination remain unanswered. Number 1. The Navajo Nation's abandoned uranium mines. The final place on this list isn't hidden on a remote island or behind military fences. It's located where thousands of people still live. Between the 1940s and the 1980s, hundreds of uranium mines operated across Navajo Nation lands in the United States. Many workers were never fully informed about the dangers of radiation, and when mining ended, many companies simply left. More than 500 abandoned mines still remain across the region. Researchers say many questions about the long-term health and environmental effects remain unanswered, and communities continue asking how much damage has already been done and what still lies beneath the ground.